All right, my son Kyle, everybody. Big fan. Okay. Just made it. Okay, so now we're recording. I've already given my spiel, so you already heard all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and tell my story. Okay? So there I was, face down on a subway platform in New York. My legs all tangled up in front, over my head. And I was thinking to myself, how did I get here? And why does my shoulder hurt so much? So let's cut back to when I was in my 20s. I was kind of trying to impress a girl, and I thought it would be cool to do a pratfall where I would land on my back. And instead of landing on my back, I landed on my shoulder and arm like this, and I felt something give. But being a stupid 20-something-year-old, I didn't think much about it, so I just kind of went on with my day. Cut to a few months later, I'm on my first assignment for Teenage Research Unlimited. And my job is to fly out to Lake Havasu, Arizona, and talk to teenage college students about beer. And in Lake Havasu, what they would do is they would rent these boats. He's shaking his head, you know. They'd rent these boats, and they put all the boats together in the middle of the lake, these big houseboats, and they'd party on these boats, and they'd go from boat to boat to boat. So in order to talk to these college students, we had to rent a boat. So I rented a boat and drove out to where the kids were, and we were interviewing these college students, these nubile, almost barely clothed college students, wearing about beer. And as we were jumping from boat to boat, it got kind of hot in Lake Havasu, Arizona, so I decided to jump in the water. And I jumped in the water, and as I was coming out on the boat, something gave. And I get on top, I'm sitting in the water, and I can't move my arm. And I'm sitting in the water, and I can't get myself up the boat. And these college students jump on the water, and they help me up onto the boat, and one of them says, I think your shoulder's dislocated. And that had never happened to me before, so I had no idea what to do. And he said, well, look, just try to move your arm. Just try to move it. And when your shoulder's out, you can't move it very well, but I kind of moved it, and it popped back in. So I'm like, okay, good. Stupid 20-something-year-old. I'm like, okay, I'm all good. Had some more beers, talked to some more teens, drove the boat back to the place and went on with my day. Cut to a few months later, I am skiing in Courchevel, France. And I am with my soon-to-be wife, or girlfriend at the time, soon-to-be wife, and her family. We are off-piste on a double black diamond. Now, off-piste means you're not on the main trail, you're way off, right? And I'm skiing along, I'm thinking, well, I'm doing great. I plant my pole and I turn, and it's like somebody, like a sniper, shot me out of the forest, and I go down. And my wife, girlfriend at the time, skis up to me, says, are you okay? My sister-in-law unclips, runs up the mountain out of breath, are you okay? And I'm sitting there, and my shoulder is out, and I cannot get it back in. I don't know how to get it back in. And I'm sitting there like, I'm okay. Now, when your shoulder pops out, just for your edification, it's not a nice feeling. Basically what happens is in my case, your body kind of goes into shock. You get really sweaty, and it feels really yucky, and you get a little woozy, and it's just not nice. And I'm sitting there holding my shoulder, trying to figure out how I can get it into place, trying to move it. It's not doing it. It's like a wet rag. And so the ski patrol is called. And they come down, and it takes them about 25 minutes to get to us. And because we were way off piste, we were way off the main drag. And they get to us, and I say to them, listen, my shoulder's out, can you help me just pop it back in? And they said, I'm sorry, sir, it's not possible. Which is what French people say, drives me nuts. It's not possible. So it's not possible, you have to talk to the doctor because something else could be wrong, I'm sorry. I'm like, all right, so fine. So they put me on the sled, and we're on the sled, it's a metal sled. And again, as I mentioned, I get really sweaty. So I'm on this metal sled, there's like a thin blanket, and they put me on my right side, and I'm lying down, and they're going down the mountain. Now, we are on a double black diamond. So that means you don't go straight down, you serpentine down the mountain. And it takes about 45 minutes to an hour. And in that time, I am freezing. I am shaking. And as you're shaking with your shoulder out, it's really yucky. It's like this just horrible feeling. And I'm freezing, and I get down to the bottom of the mountain, and they bring me to the doctor, and the first thing they have to do is warm me up because I'm borderline hypothermic. And then they take my jacket off, which was pleasure in its own experience. And then the doctor kind of goes like this, pop back into place. Oh my God, instant relief. Now, again, it kind of feels crunchy, but at least it can move and it works, right? Side note, the doctor was covered by insurance. The trip down the mountain, no, that cost me more than my round trip flight to France. Anyway, I get back to Chicago and I go to the doctor because the first thing I want to do is find out how to put it back in myself because I'm not going through that again. That was horrible. And the doctor explains to me that, first of all, it's not like the movies. You don't ram yourself against the wall like Riggs does in Lethal Weapon, right? You have to hold something heavy, lean over something with a weight in your hand, and your body and gravity want the shoulder to go back in, and it does. It takes some time. You have to have some patience. Because what happens is it's a ball and socket joint. And what happens is when the muscle around the ball loosens, it will stay loosened. And the shoulder will come out a lot. And what you need to do is you need to strengthen the muscles around the ball so that the other muscles, because those muscles that you've now stretched are never going to go back. Okay, lesson learned. And he said, well, there's only two ways to deal with this. Number one is you have to build the muscles around the ball to build some strength, or you have to have surgery. Again, 20-something-year-old, I'm not having surgery, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to just build those muscles. And he said, I have something for you too. It kind of looks like bike shorts with some bungee cords and stuff that I wore, and it was horrible because despite having those things, my shoulder came out and has come out a lot. And it's come out in a lot of experiences. It's come out at my daughter's day camp when I was jumping rope. It's come out when I was playing softball. It was come out when I was skiing again, of course. It's even come out when I was swing dancing. People react to your shoulder coming out in a lot of different ways. And I have to say, for example, in my swing dancing experience, I happened to be with a lot of first-year medical residents, and they all came at me like a bunch of vampires to a victim because they wanted to get that in their book. They wanted to have the experience of popping someone's shoulder. In fact, someone ran up to me, and I was on the ground and writhing in pain, all sweaty and uncomfortable and woozy, and he put his foot in my underarm, and he yanked my arm, and I was like, ah! And he dropped my arm because he was freaked out, and my arm fell because I had no control, like a wet fish, and I'm on the ground, and I'm like, stay away. And I put my hand up like across to the vampires. I'm like, get away from me. And I go over and I get something heavy and I lean over something and it pops back in. Now, the other type of experience is like the one I had in New York. So I'm lying on the ground. My daughter was there. My son wasn't there. I'm lying on the ground, and I'm not kidding when I tell you that several New Yorkers literally stepped over me. Because I think for really three reasons. Number one is they're New Yorkers. That's what they do. Number two is they just witnessed a guy who was trying to unsuccessfully jump over the turnstile because his train was coming and his Metro card wasn't working. And number three is I was wearing my signature Boston Red Sox hat. And I want you to know that the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry is real. So, in retrospect, I look at all these experiences and I realize there's some life lessons here, right? Number one, and let's all agree, New Yorkers are assholes, right? Number two, my mom's in New York. Number two is, if you're going to be around any medical professionals, make sure that they are experienced and licensed and they know what they're doing. And I think the third one is kind of a life lesson. It's more of a, things in life are going to happen, right? You're going to experience some things that are going to be tough in your life. And what you need to do is you need to hold on to the weight of it. You need to have some patience because eventually it'll pop back into place. So there's Issa, there's me, that's New York when we were there. That was right before this all happened. I was smiling in this picture. I wasn't smiling afterward. Issa's eating something. What were you eating? Something like peanut butter cuppy. She was very excited. Yeah. Anyway, cool. So Issa, who do we have for our next story?
We have Lisa.
So we have Lisa coming up for our next story. Let's give a big hand for Lisa. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do your thing, Lisa.
Well, I want to see my words. I'm actually
Oh
going
yeah,
to look at
words.
them tonight.
Come on, Lisa, you're dropping the ball. All right.
I never remember to look at them, so I'm actually going to look at them tonight. Okay. All right. Hi, friends. This is a story about when I was.
Wait 1 sec, Lisa. We're gonna just help with the light. Some people are saying pretty nice. Let's see. That? No. No. Unfortunately, that's our only option.
That one in the middle.
That one? You think that was better?
Yeah. You can see her better.
That one.
You're never going to please everybody.
No, sorry. Sorry, that's the light situation. I apologize. All right, Lisa, take it away.
All right. Okay, so this is a story about when I was forced to face a fear. A big fear. And I really had to face it because when this happened, I couldn't wait around for somebody to come rescue me, which is what I would usually do in a situation like this. And I acknowledge that a lot of people would call this fear irrational. Intellectually, I can kind of get behind that, but it's a fear of mine. And there are a lot of people who are also afraid of it, so I'm going to take comfort in that. All right, you need to know that I drive a mature vehicle. If you parked on that side, you may have seen her. She's a 94 Ford Explorer. 94. So at this point in her journey, sometimes she needs some TLC. A few years ago, she started leaking coolant. I took it to my mechanic, who I had a love-hate relationship with, and he fixed it. And 3 weeks later, she started leaking coolant again. I was done with him at that point, and I'm not going to give him another $400 to fix my truck again. So I took it upon myself to just keep an eye on my coolant levels. I was going to make a habit of it. It became a routine. I'd go down into the carport, I'd unlock my passenger door, I'd deposit all my belongings on the passenger seat, and my phone, my wallet, my house keys, whatever I'm carrying around. Go around to the driver's side, pop the hood, prop the hood up, check the levels, top off if needed, drop the hood, be on my way. Got used to it, no big deal. On this particular day, I was in a hurry though. I had a very small window in which I needed to run a bunch of errands that were time sensitive, like I had to pick up a prescription, had to get something mailed off to one of my kids, I needed to get groceries, and I needed to get home and prepared for a 1:30 virtual call that I could not be late for. So I had this window, I was on a mission, go down the carport, do my thing, drop my stuff on my seat, go around, pop the hood, and as I'm pushing up the hood to prop it up, I think I see some motion in the left side of the engine compartment, but I couldn't be sure because I was really just trying to get the hood up. And then I was gonna get to the coolant, but then I for sure saw motion in the engine compartment, and it was a rat sitting on my air conditioning unit. And I let out the biggest scream and jumped back 6 to 8 feet from the front of my truck. Luckily I didn't land on my ass. My driveway is pretty sloped out of my carport, so that was safe. And I then proceeded to yell and scream at this rat sitting on the air conditioning compartment of my truck, waving my arms you'd think I was trying to scare a bear, but it just sat there and looked at me completely unbothered by the whole thing. And I'm I gotta go, I don't have time for this. And I was freaking out. So I start looking around for something to throw at it, figuring surely I can encourage it to get out of my engine compartment. The only thing I could find that wouldn't damage my truck were a bunch of blossoms and buds from the big camellia shrub that I have at the top of my driveway. So I gather up a handful of them, and I'm standing, again, 6 to 8 feet away from the front of my truck, and the air conditioning unit is at the, right? So I'm a good 10 feet away from the rat, and I'm hurling these blossoms and buds, and they don't go that far because they're pretty light, and the rat's just looking at me, and then he finally starts to move. I'm oh, he's moving, and he just kind of wanders around to the front, and he gets up on the windshield and props himself on that wiper blade. And I'm what the fuck? I gotta go! I was freaking out because I was on a schedule, and I'm never late to things, and oh my God. So, all this yelling and screaming wasn't doing anything. I spied a rake that I have propped up against the carport door. So I'm okay, I can get the rake. Surely I can prod it off or fling it off or something. The stall next to my truck is generally always open unless someone was over, and oh my God, I wish somebody was over that day, but nobody was there. So I do this thing where I'm giving it a wide berth. I'm keeping my eyes on it because you know it's going to attack me, right? Rats attack. Going around the side of the wall, and I get to the rake, and I come back, and I line myself up with him, and I'm holding onto the rake at the very end of the handle, and I'm like in this like lightsaber fencing stance, but I'm nowhere near the truck because I won't get near it. So I'm like, the rake isn't long enough, and in order for it to be effective, I have to get closer, but it's going to attack me, so I can't do that, so I have to abandon that strategy. At this moment, I'm like, oh my God, I have to document this for my kids. They are not going to believe this happened. They're no way going to believe that I had dealt with a rat and that a rat was on my truck. And because they've seen how I respond when spiders are in my house. Can you imagine? So I'm like, okay, well, my phone's in the truck. I'm going to go in the house and get the iPad. My house keys are in the truck. The rat has taken my truck hostage. So fortunately, there's a spare key in the carport, so I do the whole wall thing again, watching the rat, get the spare key. I run up the outside stairs, because there's no way I'm going to open the carport door, because of course he's going to lunge into my house, right? So I go up the outside stairs, get my iPad, I come back down, and he's not on the windshield anymore. I'm like, yes! Shit, I missed my photo opportunity. But yes! Oh no! He had made his way up to the roof of my truck, and now he's sitting on the rear looking at me, having a complete fit. I get the iPad out. Second generation, camera's not great. Software probably hadn't been updated, so I'm having to get closer than I really wanted to take this picture because I want it to be obvious that there's a rat on my truck so I can send it to my kids. Because we do that. We send pictures of things right back and forth, and they had to see this menacing creature. Get the picture. Look at the clock on the iPad, and I had killed 20 minutes in the carport in a standoff with a rat, and I did not budget 20 minutes for this. I had all these things I had to do, and I had to be back for my appointment. So I'm like, I gotta pull up my big girl britches, and I just gotta do this. I gotta get in the truck. I just gotta get in the truck and drive away. Maybe that will shake it. So my truck is also a sport model, so it only has 2 doors, so it's a shorter body. So the rear of the truck is actually much closer to the driver's side door than you'd want when there's a rat on there that's gonna attack you, right? So I get around to the driver's side, and I get in real quick and shut the door. And I look out, thinking maybe he'd go down. Nope. All right. Surely I'll turn on the engine. Now I'll make him. Nope. Turn on the engine. Look. Nope. Still there. Okay. Now I'd love to just go screaming down my driveway. It's about 30 feet, but I live on St. Francis Drake Boulevard, so there's a lot of traffic. There are people walking dogs and babies on the sidewalk, so I can't do that. I have to go down the driveway normal, which I do, thinking, well, he'll fall off. So I'm driving down the driveway, and I'm looking in the rear view, and he's not going anywhere. So I get to the end of the driveway. I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait for a traffic break, and I'm going to gun it out of the driveway. I will lose him that way. Right. Wait for the traffic break. It happens. I go squealing out of the driveway, and I see motion out of my right side. I see shadow, and I'm like, okay, I'm in the clear. And I was trying to calm down as I'm driving down the street. I'm going east on St. Francis Drake Boulevard, and I'm calming down. And I was on the inside lane next to the median, and I get stopped at the stoplight at Bon Air, at the church by Roman Catholic, and all of a sudden I hear squeak, 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 squeak. I'm like, holy shit, he's still on the roof of my truck. And I'm starting, and I can't pull over because I'm in the middle, and it's lunchtime traffic, and there's cars all around me, and the light turns green, and I have to focus on driving, but I'm hyperventilating because there's a rat on my truck. My dad told me that rats can get in spaces as big as your pinky, right? So look at when you close your car, there are spaces that look like they're that big. I'm like, this thing is going to get into the truck while I'm driving it. Oh my God. So I proceed to drive down St. Francis Drake Boulevard, and I'm thinking this guy is like a stunt rat, right? He is hanging on to the top of my truck. I'm wondering what the other drivers around me are thinking. Are they seeing me having a panic attack behind the wheel and Super Rat on the top just taking a ride? Like, what is happening? Keep going. At this point, I'm like, I gotta move over. I gotta pull over because I am not safe behind the wheel. So I make my way into the middle lane. By that point, I'm at the stoplight that's at the end of the east end of Bon Air Center, where the 2 gas stations are, if you're familiar with that area. And I'm stopped. And I hear, it runs to the front, slides down the windshield, lands there, and looks right at me. And I'm like, oh, shit! Okay, you know when you're in your car and you can see that space between the trunk, your hood, and I'm like, he's gonna climb in there because he's looking to get back in the same place that he came from, right? He's gonna climb in there, and then he's gonna get into the passenger compartment. Because in my mind, it's all open and it's easy to get into. It's also a 94. It could be. I don't know how cars are made. He realizes that he can't get in. He goes down to the side of the wheel well. And I'm also thinking he's going to get into the engine compartment that way. But I happen to see him kind of scurry off, go up into the landscaping, and disappear into Bon Air. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I was able to run all my errands. I did get home and prepare for my 1:30 call, which, thank God, and hand to God, was my weekly therapy session. So as you can imagine, that 50 minutes was spent talking about my fear of rats. She's a great therapist, but she has not cured that. There's a picture.
Give a big hand for Lisa. That's Lisa. All right, I just want to read a couple of these here. But first of all, I just want to, first of all, appreciate the fear that Lisa experienced. I had that in my family. My family are terrified of spiders.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember one specific incident where I had one of my sons, who may or may not have been late to coming here today, and he was riding his bike down to Old Mill, and all of a sudden, I get a call from him, and he's like, there's a spider on my bike, I can't! And I drove down there, and I got down to the bike was all crumpled up in the road. He was like hyperventilating on the side of the road, and he's like, there's a spider on there. And, you know, the spider was long gone, but anyway, that was Kyle, but now he's 20! Yes, he's a big spider. Okay, I asked you in the beginning of our experience to write down some things that you thought about for Yikes. We have one says, my sister's license plate is Yikes. There we go.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, as a little girl, my mother and aunt drove for ice cream in Sebastopol. They thought I was in the back of the car. They proceeded to drive away. I was left to sit by myself for what felt like an eternity. They returned quickly, and I was filled with a range of emotions. Who is that? Yeah, oh, that's not so good. Let's see. Oh, this was moving to a new house, opened the cabinets to discover there was no floorboards or foundation looking straight at the dirt. Yikes. I'm not going to read that one because I can't read it. And there's one more I wanted to read. Oh, this one, hold on a sec. This is also a family member. When I got pulled over for going 88, I literally couldn't speak. 88 miles an hour on the 101. Isa Rudman. Everybody, give it up for Isa! Okay. So our next storyteller is Jules. Jules, our next storyteller. So first of all, again, I want to just give a full-on appreciation for Jules, because without Jules, we wouldn't have this fun of the stage. Jules, come on and say this to me. You ready? Here we go. Put that on. Get it for Jules! Jules, I have no words for Jules. You should. Yeah.
Can I send them to you?
No.
I guess it's a bit late now to tell you them. So my story tonight is about the mountain play. Have any of you been to the mountain play up at the top of Mount Town? It was something that I thought I'd always wanted to go to until I went, and I'll tell you why. It's usually in May, I think, like May or June or something. And Mother's Day is in May, and June, my birthday, is right at the beginning of June, like June 2nd or something. So there's usually 2 weeks between Mother's Day and my birthday. And I have 2 grandsons who were not grown at this time, actually. They were double digits, maybe, I don't know, 8 and 10 or something. And then, and I always used to make a big deal about everyone's birthdays. And it got to the point where no one was making a big deal about my birthday. And so this year I was like, we're going to do something special for Mother's Day and my birthday. We're going to do something as a family. And someone had given me 4 tickets to the mountain play. And it was going to be The Sound of Music. And I was like, this is perfect. We'll go, my ex-husband can come, the 2 boys, will be a nice family outing, it's going to be wonderful, everyone's going to have such a great time, it'll be lovely. And so I plant the seed, put it out there, and they're all on board, we're going to go do it. And we meet up that morning, I think it was a Saturday maybe, and we meet up at, I think you park the cars at Town High School. So we park, we get there, of course it's the hottest day of the year, and my ex-husband turns up in a suit, and he never wears a suit. He'd only ever worn, and it was probably the suit he wore at the wedding actually, because he heard theatre and play and Mother's Day, and he thought it was like a big fancy event, so he turned up dress shoes, suit, or at least a jacket and something fancy, and so we all arrived, it's great, and they're already bickering, like the boys are already arguing about something, but anyway, it's not going to dampen the mood. So we load into the school bus, because there's a bus, so you have to park and ride, so you park at the high school, and then the bus takes you up the hill, up the mountain. So we pile on the bus, it's packed, and it's got to be one of the hottest days of the year. It's like 90 degrees out, no air conditioning on the bus. None of us are prepared for it, but we're on the bus and it's hot and packed. And so we make it up the hill and we're already miserable because we didn't come very prepared. We're up there. We get up there, we disembark the bus, we do a little walk around, and we head over to the seating area. And of course, we didn't get the first bus up there. The people that got the first bus up there are the people that got the seats in the shade. The people that got the last bus, probably us, are left with, you know, a few little smatterings of somewhere to sit in the, you know, sun drenching them. So we find a spot, and of course the other people are more prepared. They bring chairs, they bring umbrellas, sunblock, bottles of water. We didn't have any of that. We were not prepared at all. We didn't really know what to expect, and we didn't come prepared at all. And we didn't even have sunblock. And the sun was boiling. I remember being very hot, and already the boys and my ex are getting pretty grumpy, and everyone's bickering, and it's all my fault somehow. It's all my fault. Because I was the one that planned it and pushed for it and wanted to have such a nice, fun, happy day. So we sit and the play starts, and within 3 minutes of it starting, I decide, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm done. This is not fun. It's too hot. We need to get out of here. And they were in agreement. They wanted to because they'd had enough too. So we get up to go. And then we're like, well, how do we get down? How do we get down the mountain? And we have to get a bus down. Okay, great, let's go get the bus. Oh no, the buses don't start going down until the end of the play, which is about another hour and a half. Or might have even been, I feel like it's like a 2-hour thing with intermission or whatever. So we're like, now we're stranded on the top of the mountain. And we've got no water with us, and then we've got nothing. So we're like, we'll walk down. We'll walk down the mountain. How could it be? Like, and they told us it was about 4 miles. We could do 4 miles. It's all downhill. So I'm wearing a sundress and flip-flops. My boys are wearing shorts and t-shirts. My ex is wearing his suit and dress shoes. Because he made an effort, and no, he didn't. So I was kind of proud of him for making the effort. So we're like, we'll just walk down the mountain. That's what we'll do. So we heading up, we got directions, and we were like, well, how hard can it be? It's just straight down, like we just, you know. So we start walking down the mountain. And of course you don't just go straight down. It's like meandering. And I feel to this day that we ended up like spiraling the mountain until we got all the way to the bottom, because it took a long time. And we're bitching at each other, we're arguing and fighting and blaming and name calling, and we're hoofing it down the mountain, and we're all getting blisters, we're getting sunburned, we've got no water. And we pass a few really enthusiastic hikers, and they're all looking at us like, oh, look at the rookies with no gear, no water, nothing. And we did come across a little rest stop somewhere. So we used the bathroom, I think we managed to drink water out of the bathroom or something, and then we carry on heading down the mountain. And at one point my son is meandering, like he's running around and stuff, and ends up getting into poison ivy. And he's very susceptible to it. And he gets in it. We didn't really register at first he'd been in it until like another half hour later or so, and he's like itching, and then these little blisters start arriving, and he's furious now, so he's pissed. Again, all my fault. And so we are still walking down this mountain, and it's been a few hours now. Like, it wasn't just an hour or two. We're about 3 hours of walking now. And we have no idea really where we are. We're just still heading down. And then we find ourselves, we're kind of on a trail, but not really on a trail. We picked up trails here and there, and then we were just going down. And it's starting to get cooler, because it's still 95 degrees or something. It's still ridiculously hot. But we walking, and it's definitely getting later and cooler. We didn't have cell phones or anything. There was no service or whatever. So we finally get down towards the end, to the bottom of the mountain, but we don't end up, like, we thought we might just end up back at the high school somehow. We didn't really register where we were going to end up down. We didn't know Mill Valley that well, so we didn't really know where we were once we got down, but we ended up somehow way down the back of a canyon somewhere that we didn't even know. So we get down there, and it's actually starting to get dark now. It's been hours, and it must have taken us 6-7 hours, maybe even longer, because I feel like it was like 11:30 or something when we got up there. It's hours and hours of bickering, arguing, and just being really miserable. And sunburned, blisters, everyone got blisters. So we end up down in the back of the canyon, and we're like, okay, we need to get back to the car, but we don't even know where we are. And there was no Uber then. This must have been like 10, 12 years ago. There was no Uber. And we tried calling a taxi, but there's actually very few taxis in Mill Valley. And so we started walking, and we ended up walking as far as like the plaza. We made it to the downtown square. By now it's like 9:30. So it's been a full day with my ex-husband and my 2 boys. Everyone's been arguing, bickering, bitching at each other, vowing never to do this again. This is the worst day of my life. And I'm like, I'm never planning a family day out again, ever. But we finally are able to order a taxi. And I think it was the one taxi driver in Marin or something. And but he's going to be about another 45 minutes to get to us. Because he's, done his one other ride for me. So finally, a taxi comes, and it's I don't know if you've seen this guy. He's a taxi, and it's an old yellow cab, and he plays a trombone. I don't know if you've seen this guy. We're all pissed. We're sunburned, red in the face, sweaty, we're barely speaking to each other. And he pulls up, and he's a jolly old soul, and he's happy, and he's like, how are you folks doing at the end of the day? And we're like, no. Like, we're just not engaging. and he's playing the trumpet on the taxi ride. And we are just like not having it. And he's really trying to cheer us up and stuff. But anyway, he drops us back in our car, and we get in our cars, and we all go our separate ways, and I take the kids home. And to this day, I have not booked or scheduled any other Mother's Day thing or anything. What I do now with my boys is I send them a link of a gift they can buy me. And that is it. And I'm not tempted to pay. And to this day, I have vowed I will never go to the mountain play. Ever again. I'll recommend it to others, but I won't go.
People back have requested that I try this instead. All right, we're going to try that instead. There we go. So I just want to mention real quick. Jules talked about those people that, you know, are hiking up and they've got all their gear. That's us. We have gone to the mountain play many, many times. We have a whole system. So one of the things we do is I drive up very early in the morning and set our stuff up underneath the shaded spot. And then I jog back home. And then me and the family all hike back up. And we've done that for many, many years.
And your car's up there.
And our car's up there, so when we're done. So, but the only thing is, Jules, one time I did this whole thing. I woke up early, I drove up there, I ran back down, we hiked back up, and I left the keys at home. Yes, that was a bit of a bummer. But yes, yeah, we're those people passing me by going, why don't you have any water? Why are you sitting in the sun?
They were so smart, those people.
Yeah. It is not fun. It is. I will tell you, it is very hot up there. If you're ever going to go to the mountain play, you have to go and get under the shade. Otherwise, it is not. It's a nightmare because it's so bloody hot up there. The other thing I wanted to mention is, so we're going to do one more story before our break, and I just want you guys to prepare yourselves. This is a great story. We have John as a first-time storyteller for us, so let's give everybody a big round of applause. John's going to try without the microphone. If you can't hear, please raise your hand, and we will we'll put him on mic. Yeah. So I'm going to put that on you, John. I'll put this aside. All right. Take it away.
Good evening. So nice to be here with you tonight. The title of my story is A Tale About Big Red, a Dog. And if you're transcribing this wonderful story, that's tale, T-A-L-E. When I was in high school, I heard about the Greek word aletheia, roughly translates to truth. And I was enamored by that word and found that it had several other translations in Greek. I'll get to in a moment. And I came home from my first year at college and had a summer job that fell through. Needed to work for the summer because I was living with mom and dad and going back to my dormitory at the end of summer in Santa Clara. And a friend of mine suggested that I work at the SPCA Animal Hospital in San Francisco, down on 16th Street in Potrero. I went down to that location, 1971, when I was in college, and went into the SPCA where I was to change into my uniform, an apron that I wore over my grubby jeans and tennis shoes. And then I went into the animal hospital next door. It's not affiliated, but it's got the same name to kind of work on the encouraging people to come by and visit and use their services. I came into the hospital through the kitchen, and oh my goodness, the odor was really unexpected and a little bit hard for me to take. Nothing like the savory aroma at Mom's kitchens over the weekend. So there was a little bit of an unfolding there about the truth of the animal hospital, unfolding another aspect of Aletheia. And I thought, well, you can hang through one day and get paid. It'll be okay. So that was my goal, make it through that day. I didn't realize before I took that job that I was going to be exposed to nature, some of its very raw sense. Dogs and cats coming in all day, every day, that was my job. When I first started, because I was the new kid, I got to work in the back room, the room with one of the 9 vets who was assigned to it that particular day. We'd treat all the animals that were in-house, either for treatment because of an ongoing problem or because they were being housed there as kennel. And during the course of that work, over the first day or two, began to see it was actually kind of fun. Got a lot of interesting animals, breeds I'd never heard of, didn't know anything about. The 9 veterinarians there knew about all the breeds and all the stories. So they would usually fill you in, oh, be careful about that one, look out about that one. Did you know where that cat came from? Very interesting stuff. So I found that I really liked the experience. I found that I enjoyed going back to the place. I actually went back for another 3 years, each of my first 3 years in college. And next door, because they actually let people adopt animals, people would get their animals and they'd come in and they'd be so happy, little children with their big dogs, big children with their little dogs, family members. Everybody had a good time. They'd see their dog get shots, or they'd come into one of the 9 rooms that we had for dealing with new people. They'd come in with their animal that had been in a dog accident or gotten bit or whatever in a fight, and that would be how you would treat them and take care of them. And I began to see the joy that owning a pet could bring to the pet owner, whether it was newly acquired or whether it was one that you had had for a number of years and were just bringing it in for its semi-annual rabies shot or whatever it might be. There was a certain sense of joy and appreciation of the owner for the animal. And while I had some very unfavorable experiences taking care of some of those animals when the treatment was on them, even caused me to have to get rid of a couple of pairs of jeans over the years that I worked with them because they just couldn't be washed well enough. Overall, the experience was great. They had what place called an isolation ward. It was on the top of the building. As the name implied, it was for the real sick puppies, those that were really in trouble. But it also had a place where one of the dogs was kept that was a donor animal. Whenever they needed blood for surgery, which they actually perform in that hospital pretty frequently, sometimes this dog would be called upon to be a donor, just like you would expect. And because he was up in the isolation ward and all alone, he loved to have visitors. And he's a very nice dog, easy to get to know, fun to be with. And I found, particularly if I was in a bad mood, it was kind of nice to go up to the isolation ward, get this little puppy, let it out of its cage, let it run around in the room, run around on the roof. A couple of times for lunch, my teenage colleagues and I might even go up there and bring a 6-pack of beer and do something we shouldn't be doing, but we didn't tell too much about that. That's another story I'll tell. So that was my job. And then there was Big Red. I was partial to Irish setters. I don't know why. My family never had pets. My father grew up in the Depression, didn't seem pets were one of those things. Didn't work out in the house at all. I never knew pets growing up. But I liked Irish setters. Big Red came in one day in my first year and he needed to get a shot. And boy, I was amazed. This was a beautiful dog. Got a shot left. Next year, came back to work, was working one day, and the vet told me to go up and get the dog. Went up to get the dog. Oh, it was Big Red. He was up in the boarding kennel. What's he doing up there? I look at his card. He's going to be here for 4 days, getting some kind of treatment. So I hustled him down to the room, and on the way back, because he was a dog, he needed to stretch his legs a little bit, let him go off leash, and oh my goodness, did he love it. He's running around the hallways having a great time. He thinks I must be the most wonderful guy in the world because I'm letting him off leash. Nobody else seemed to want to do that. So Big Red and I became friends. Over the next course of the next couple of days while he was getting treated, he'd hear me coming in the door to his kennel, or probably smell me too. He'd be so excited, wagging his tail. I'd open up this kennel door. He'd try to jump up on me, give me a big kiss. And Big Red, he would put his paws up on my shoulders. That's how big Big Red was. To give me, get down, come on. Off we go. Time came for him to go home. Off he went. That was year 2. Year 3 comes along. I'm coming into work one morning, and I get told to go up to the kennel, get one of the animals. I go up, it's Big Red again. Look at his card this time. He's here for a 2-week stay. Oh my goodness gracious, what lovely news, a 2-week stay. See him every day. And that's what happened. Every day I'd get Big Red. Bring him down and get his vitamins or whatever it was. Off he'd go. This went on for 2 lovely weeks. But then it went into the 3rd week. He was only supposed to be 2. Then we started to get into the 4th week. And I heard the rumbling about the PTS notice had come back. The PTS notice. The put to sleep notice. And it came back unable to deliver. No forwarding address. Now, the hospital was not in it for charity. They were in it to make money. They had absolute rules and regulations about animals that they were taking care of. The rules didn't allow for adoption. They certainly didn't allow for abduction. And dog napping was absolutely a no-go. So that PTS notice and it being returned was not good news. Came to work one morning not too long later. And it was a beautiful San Francisco morning, typical for 16th and Potrero. Got off the Muni bus, walked half a block to the front door of the hospital to walk in. Couldn't see the bus stop, it was so foggy. I was in a good mood. It was a couple minutes before opening time. Go into the back room and the vet's there. He's one of the real jovial guys. And his mood is real. He's not his jovial self. And he tells me, go get Big Red. And he's got a bottle of pink serum in his hands, the euthanasia serum. And I go up to get Big Red. And I know this is the last time that I'm going to be getting Big Red. And that taught me the reality that brought home the reality of the animal hospital in big cities like San Francisco and places like the SPCA that house animals. That animals are not people. Animals are not treated like people. Animals often are very loved, very well cared for. They bring us great joy, joy that lasts a lot longer, usually, than their short lives. But animals, like people, are often abandoned and are alone. And the ways to deal with that situation are not as caring as they are for people. And that was a lesson that came with the job, and a hard lesson to learn. And it was really brought home to me that day and in that experience. Yikes. Yikes. So, any of you who are dog or cat lovers, any of you who have owned pets, you know of the joy that I speak. You know of the joy that I referenced and that I experienced. And if you've never had an animal, and you've enjoyed what I've just told you about Big Red, realize that that was over 50 years ago. And the joy that that animal brought to me over 50 years ago persists today. And is with me today, with you right now. That's why I share this story with you right now. Because I can still feel Big Red's paws on my shoulders. I can still see his tail wagging as he ran down the hall unleashed. And I know the joy that he brought to me just by being himself. A wonderful, beautiful Irish setter. So if you've ever owned an animal, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't and you're thinking about it, please consider it. And I'll end with this line from the Beatles song, appropriately called The End, which is, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Good evening.
Wow. So, I don't know, I have no funny things to say after that. It was a beautiful story. We all have pets, and we all love them. And thank you for that story, John. So, another hand for John, please. So, let's everybody take a break. You know what? Let's everybody grab a drink and raise a glass to Big Red, and also use the restrooms. And we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Yeah, perfect. There you go. Well done. All right, take a break. Thank you so much. And while you're making your way back, let me just make sure this is on. Yeah. While you're making your way back, I just want to read a couple more Yikes experiences. This one comes also from a family member. I caught my fingers in a mailbox and couldn't get them out. Now, let me just give you a little more context in that story. So this is my mother this happened to. She put her fingers in the mailbox to get something out of the mailbox, and then was on the street for 10 minutes trying to get her hand out and calling for help because her hand was stuck in the mailbox. So neighbor, next time, turn to your dad, right?
You're on call.
You're on call. And then there's another one. But by the way, I really appreciate the very clear and well-written writing that's easy to read. I'm looking at you. I was sitting in the car, enjoying a beautiful view of my friend that was like a brother to me. I turned to say something to him to find his face right in my face, and he said, "I want to kiss you." Okay, our first storyteller for this second half. We're actually throwing in one more because you guys have been so great. We're going to throw in one extra story. So we're going to have 4 more stories, and then we'll get you out of here. That'll get you out of here right on time, CJ. Don't worry. It's getting late. Okay, so we're going to start with Grania. Everybody give a big hand for our first-time storyteller, Grania. Oh, yeah, let's put that back. There we go. Grania, everybody.
It's my first time doing this. My second.
Oh, and speak right so your mom can hear.
My mom's in the back. Can you hear me, Mom? Yeah. There you go. Okay, so here we go. I've never really been very good at following the rules, and I'm also not very good at lying. So those two things together can get me in a lot of trouble.
A little closer to the mic.
Hear me, Mom?
Yeah.
Like the time I went to Cuba. So back in 2007, I decided to go to Cuba. And from what I understood, you could go legally, but you have to go through an agency, you have to go for certain reasons. And most people went under the radar, and you do that through flying through another country into Cuba, and then of course flying through another country back into the US. So that's what we did. We went to Costa Rica. We had a great time in Costa Rica. Went into Cuba. As I'm traveling around in Cuba, amazing place, stuck in time. And I decided I'm going to, of course, get trinkets and souvenirs for my loved ones. And so I get cigars for my brother, a beautiful carved wooden fan for my mom, who's sitting in the back there, and some trinkets and necklaces and bracelets for my sister-in-law and my niece. So it's time to come back into the States, and I'm starting to get nervous, a little bit like I am now. And we're wondering about how this goes when you get back. When we had come into the country, when we'd gone through customs, they don't stamp your passport. So we knew we were clear there, but now we're coming back. So I email a friend who I known had gone to Cuba, and I say, how's this work exactly? And they say, well, you don't offer anything, but whatever you do not lie to a federal agent. And that's all I can hear in my head the whole way home. Do not lie to a federal agent. Do not lie to a federal agent. So we're flying back through Costa Rica. We fly back into the US. Our first layover's in Denver. We get on the ground. I'm standing in the customs lines, and I'm watching people go through the customs lines. And I notice this one particular custom agent, and he's rather stern. And I can see that he's taking a long time with each person who comes through his line. He's asking them extra questions. And I'm just praying, I don't want to get that agent. And of course, then I come to the front of the line, who comes free and waves me over, that very agent. So I walk up to his kiosk, and I have my little form that I filled out. In it says, I've been to Costa Rica. It's the last country that I traveled in. I'm pretty sure you sign at the bottom of that you're attesting to the truth, and it's you know what I mean by federal law. So I hand him the form, and he looks at it and he says, you were in Costa Rica? And I said, yeah. And I just kind of take a breath, and I look at him in the face, and I just go, and Cuba. I went to Cuba. And his whole demeanor changes. I mean, his demeanor was already rather stern, but he just looks at me and he's actually kind of angry with me, feels like. And he said, you went to Cuba? And I said, yes. And he said, why isn't it on your form? And I said, well, it just asked where I went last. And he's like, people go to Cuba for a lot of reasons. Why did you go to Cuba? And I was like, tourism? And he's like, come with me. And he takes me into another room. Yeah. My boyfriend at the time had already gone through the doors. He was on the other side. He knew nothing of what was going on. He actually told me later that he thought that I was probably crying and he should call my family because I had been taken away to jail. But anyway, so I get put into another room, and he takes me over to some other custom agents, tells them kind of actually talks to them to the side, tells them what is happening, and then he leaves the room, and I'm glad he's gone. But these two custom agents look a little bewildered. They actually seem to know what to do with me. And it seems like they're actually looking up online how to deal with the situation. It's Denver. Maybe they don't have a lot of people come in who've been under the radar from Cuba. And so they go through all of my luggage, and they hand me a form, and they have me fill out everything all the money I've spent in Cuba, everything I've purchased. It's all about the embargo. And I fill that out, and then they tell me, they say, okay, you have two choices. You can destroy everything that you've purchased in Cuba. Yes. And we won't stamp your passport that you've been there. Or you can keep everything that you've purchased in Cuba, but we'll need to stamp your passport, and you'll probably have trouble in the future traveling. So I love to travel, and I just decided, okay, fine. I'll destroy everything I purchased in Cuba. They'd already gone through my luggage. I pulled out everything the souvenirs I had bought for my loved ones. I put them out on the table, and I proceed, they have to watch you do it so they know you did it, to stand in front of a trash can and destroy everything I bought. I take the cigars that I had got for my brother, tear them apart, throw them in the trash. I take the beautiful carved wooden fan for my mother, break it into pieces, throw it in the trash. I take the necklace for my sister-in-law, same thing. And then I finally get through everything, and I get to these little wooden handmade bracelets for my niece, and I pick them up, and I just look, and I'm like, these two, really asking kind of like rhetorically, and the guy looks at me, and he's with sympathy, but really more with pity, and he says, "Are those from Costa Rica?" And I just like sigh and I go, "Yeah, those are from Costa Rica."
You just gotta wait, don't you? You're like, oh, come on. Couldn't they have just said at the beginning? These are all from Costa Rica, right? Let me just give two. I have two more that I thought were funny here. Just gonna read this here. We have. Oh, this was not funny. I flew to New Orleans airport 12 hours after a jet crash directly over the burned wreckage. And this one, I like this one. Gently prodding a coworker's belly, thinking she must be pregnant. She wasn't. Yikes. All right. So, just guys, just so you know, bad idea. Never do that. Never do that. Okay, so we're gonna go do just kind of go nuts. So we're gonna have a new storyteller come up last minute, and we have no words for him. But why don't you come on up and tell your story, man? All right. Introduce yourself and take it away.
Awesome. My first time. Hello, Justin.
Yeah, there we go.
So it's 1989, and I'm living in Corte Madera underneath the Redwoods, and I'm working at this restaurant.
I'm sorry.
Called the Island Cafe, if any of you remember it. Sort of Marin's first attempt at high upscale organic food. Tofu burgers and organic this that just hadn't been done. But this was my third waitering gig, and I was burning out on waitering. And I thought, oh, there's a message from the universe. You're waiting for life to start happening. So a friend of mine sees an ad, and it's for Smith & Hawken, the upscale gardening company. And in Mill Valley, so I go and apply. And it's for a 3-month gig to get ready for the holiday season. And I get hired in Mill Valley, the beautiful post office, the old post office in downtown Mill Valley on East Blythedale, that white building. That was the Smith & Hawken main office. Paul Hawken gave us an kind of welcoming speech, which was like a TED Talk. The man is a brilliant speaker and so inspiring. 16 of us were hired. The lowest level of education was a bachelor's degree. And I had such low self-esteem that I didn't even ask, how much are you paying? I just took the gig. And then I found out it was $6 an hour to work in the customer service department and learn to answer the phones. They had a mailing list of 1 million people. Harrison Ford was on it, and all sorts of celebrities. I worked this for a while, and we had our little cubicles. And then there were the people in the main office. And there was this woman, and I blotted her name out of my memories. I think it was Diana, who was very attractive. And occasionally we'd say hello, and she'd walk by. And we sort of had a connection, but not really. And then the gig wrapped up, and it was short term, and I had the option to stay on, but at $6 an hour, I realized I just couldn't afford to work here. And the manager, this beautiful woman, Sarah, was stressed out. She was managing all of these phone calls. She told me she only made $30,000 a year. And I thought, what? For this amazing company that returns handmade shovels at infinitum. So if you break your handle 30 years after you buy it, Smith & Hawken will return it. But I didn't think this gardening company was my destiny. But just before I left, there was an announcement there was going to be a party in Oakland, sort of a post-holiday party. And I'd kind of forgotten about this Diana woman, other than to be told that she was now seriously dating somebody for several months, and it looked like they were very, very serious. So I drive out by myself to Oakland, to the party. Somebody's home, it's nice, it's set up, there's some poo-poo platter things out in the backyard. I'm one of the first people there. And in walks Diana. And she's got a silver lame pantsuit, kind kind of a strange, very space-age looking thing. Her hair is shorter. She's still slender as I remember her. And now she's got a paunch that sticks out from the silver lame pantsuit. So I did something that I had gotten away with 2 or 3 times before, as you just heard on a piece of paper. I went up to her and I said, "So, what do we have in here?" And I prodded her stomach. Every time before that, this had gone over really well. People said, "No, in my 3rd month, we're so excited." This did not go over well. She did a hard stop, stared me in the eyes. Her eyes dropped to her stomach, and then they dropped back up, and she said, "What?" And I went, My face turned fire engine red. I was scrambling internally. What the hell do I say now? And I went, I bet a big hole, huh? Because I know how hungry I am. I wonder when they're bringing out the food. It did go over too well. She never spoke to me again.
Well done, well done. I didn't realize I completely ripped the story. I blew that for you, like telling the punchline early. I apologize, I didn't realize that was yours. Great story, everybody. All right, so we're going to have our next storyteller, which is going to be Mary Ann, is going to come up. So let's give it, Mary Ann is, I've told stories from here before, no pressure, but it's going to be good. All right, here we go.
All right.
Mary Ann!
It's got a little bit of a different flavor. What are my words? Let's see. Okay. So I used to hate flying. I absolutely hated it. I fly a lot these days. I love travel, but there was a time in my life where just sitting inside this closed-in space and then having it move was not my favorite thing. I would get kind of motion sick and so forth. And so when I grew up and had my own children, I decided I'm going to distract them as much as possible by giving them Legos to play with or Mad Libs. Remember Mad Libs? Mm-hmm. This is in the days before iPads. A new box of crayons, anything to keep their mind off of being trapped in this thing for so many hours. And, oh, yes, and a change of clothing just in case there's an accident of some kind. This was not my experience as a child, and this is my story when I was a child. So I was around 11 years old, and one summer my family and I were invited to our friend's place, a lake house in Canada in the Laurentian Mountains, and we had gone there several times before, but this time we decided to fly up instead of doing the 10-hour drive from New Jersey. And we had a great time up there. My mom, my brother, myself, and my dad. And it was time to go back. And my parents booked tickets on a flight during thunderstorm season. And the flight was completely crowded, and so we couldn't sit together. So I didn't have my normal support system. And I ended up being squeezed between the middle seat between 2 total strangers. And I was around, I think I said 11 years old or so. I don't know where my dad was. He was somewhere in the way back. And my mom and my brother were sitting in front, so I could kind of see through the crack in the seats. And we take off in the pouring rain, and in no time, it is just shaking like crazy. And the seatbelt light stayed on the entire time, and it's one of those times where the flight kind of drops a little, and you hear people going, oh, you know, and the tray back tables are kind of rattling, and I'm just thinking like, I don't know if I can make it through here, but I'm next to 2 strangers, and I really want to act grown up and hold it together. I don't want to lose it. And at some point, I see my brother and my mother through the crack, sort of having some kind of discussion, and I'm thinking my brother said he's not feeling well. Now this guy would be on roller coasters and ride his big wheel. Like, he would never get sick. So I'm like, if he's getting sick, it must be really turbulent. And I see my mother chat with him and stuff, and at this point I don't really know what's going on, but I will tell you what happens.
she reaches forward to get an air stick bag to help my brother, just in case. And she slides her hand in to pop it open, and she realizes it's already been used. So I guess the previous passenger had one thin mint too early, you know, the Monty Python reference. Anyway, I don't know this is happening, and at this point, I really think I'm gonna lose it. So I reach my hand through, and I try to tap my mom on the shoulder. I'm like, Mom, I need your help. And she's like, shoots me this devil look. And I'm like, okay, something's happening here. And then I hear her tell my brother, you are not getting sick. So I'm like, okay, I'm hearing this from her. I don't know what's going on. I'm literally gripping my seat and I'm counting backwards from 100, and I keep doing this over and over and trying to breathe. And at some point we land and the entire audience erupts into applause. Remember the days when people would applaud on planes? And this was like a standing ovation, because I tell you, I don't know how we got through this flight. It was horrible. And we all stand up, kind of weary and queasy, and we start to shuffle off the plane, and I see my mom dart into the galley, and there's some flight attendants there, and she tells me later that she had tried to get their attention, and they said they couldn't come. They were belted in too. It was just too dangerous. So she decided to keep her hand in that bag the entire time. Because she had nothing, she couldn't take it out, she couldn't clean it with anything. And she just literally handed her hand and the bag to the flight attendant to clean it. So when I catch up with her, I was like, what's going on? And I don't know if it's the visual of what she had gone through, or the turbulence in my belly, or the little whiff of smell, but I needed to get off of that plane now. And so I just leave her there with my brother. I don't know where my dad is, and I start to get off the plane. And the pilot has made himself appear at the door, and he's shaking everyone's hand goodbye like he's some kind of politician running for office. And finally it's my turn, and he puts out his hand, and I decide I'm a big girl, I'm gonna do this, and I shake his hand very firmly, open my mouth to say thank you, and I projectile vomit all over his shiny black shoes. And I feel like I'm airlifted from the back of my neck through the plane, out the door, into the jetway. Has that little side door sometimes. You know that thing that sucks onto the side of the plane? Okay. I am now put outside in the rain, in the dark, somewhere in Newark, New Jersey. I have no idea. And it's freezing cold, and I'm just like, ew. I can't believe what I just did. And I'm out there for an unusually long time. I feel like lost luggage at this point. Like, no one's come to claim me. And finally the door opens, and my mom's, cleaned up at this point, and my brother's there looking really weary. And my dad, I don't know where he is. And I look back, and all I see is a stain. There's no pilot anymore. I am so mortified, and I've never gone to Canada since.
Okay, what have we learned here? Canada sucks and New York sucks. Okay, wow, that's too bad. I have to say that I belong to a family. My wife is the queen of travel, and she is that person that has all of the bits involved. She had many occasions. She brought all 3 kids under age 5 to England by herself, and with 3 kids and all the stuff. And I'd be sitting at home like chilling out, and she would be flying to Europe with 3 kids and all that stuff. So big hand to her too. And a big hand to Marianne. That was a great story. Okay. We have one more story. You guys have been so great. We have one more story. This is Dave. Everybody, let's give a big hand for Dave. Okay. Put that on.
All right.
Don't walk away with it. It's all yours.
We'll see.
All right.
I say this each time, but it's true. I get so into everyone's stories that I'm sitting up, and then you call me up. I'm like, oh wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to. I have
Your turn.
Okay. All right. I did things.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This story is really from the really tiny little peak of my professional race car driving career. So at this time, this is 2004. I was able to drive for the factory Lamborghini sports car team in the American Le Mans series. So the cars were the cars that ran in the 24 hours of Le Mans in France, but here they ran a series in North America so that all those cars could run all year round or through the summer. And it was a place for basically Porsche to race against BMW, race against Corvette, against Ferrari, like all the marketplace competitors. And if you saw the Brad Pitt F1 movie, this was like the first race he did. So he was actually, I think, in a Porsche racing against BMW. It was actually, I was in that series. It was 20 years ago. So this was Lamborghini's return to sports car racing. They've been out for I don't know, decades. But the team owner that I had driven for the year before, he got this deal, and that was good for me. So, yeah, it's all great, but it's like the program was running late. The cars were not ready on time. They were being built in Europe and got there. We missed the first couple of races of the season. Did a shakedown test at where the team is based in Atlanta, and then loaded the cars in the trailer and came to the first race for us in Sonoma here. So the first time I see the car is on the Thursday setup day, and the first thing you need to do is a seat fitting, right? So the car kind of it's like a big carbon fiber. It's kind of a generic carbon fiber seat, and what happens is you work with one of the mechanics, sit in the car, get the pedals, get the wheel adjusted, and they pour this epoxy foam stuff around you, and it's all warm and cozy and great, and it makes a connection between you and the seat, exactly, and that will be your seat. I will pull that out when I get out of the car. My co-driver will put his seat in and jump in, and when he gets in, blah blah blah. So this is what I'm doing on the Thursday setup day, and I've worked with the mechanic, and I'm all comfy. So it's my job to sit for 30 minutes, sit still, hands on the wheel. My foot is like full throttle on the pedal because that's where you're going to spend most of the time. The gas pedal is the throttle. I'm going to call it the throttle for the rest of this story. So that's the gas pedal. So I'm sitting there, right? And things are happening. Mechanics are working on different parts of the car, and there's a couple of mechanics in the engine bay behind me doing things. And because behind me is like this enormous V12 Lamborghini engine, and the doors still went up like this, and kids were asking for my autograph, and women wanted to be pictured with the car. This was the one time where it was actually all of the cool race car driver things. I spent 10 years in there. It was never like it was when you drove a Lamborghini. So that is all true. All the images are that people generate. Like it was actually like that in this one time. So I'm sitting in the car. Mechanics are doing things, and I hear this discussion behind me between these two mechanics, and it escalates pretty quickly into like a serious disagreement. And I have gathered from context that they are discussing how to route the throttle cable back there at the engine. So, my foot is going yes or no on the gas pedal, and that's making the engine be very loud or very quiet. So it's like it's opening valves over at the engine to, the throttle, right? So they are having a serious argument. And like in all my days, like even all the way back to go-karts, I did not hear mechanics like arguing like this. And I don't know where the team manager was, but he was not here. So, and the problem that I really had was that each of them was making very valid points. It was like, well, if you do it that way, then you're not going to have any redundancy from these springs here. You're totally reliant on the one spring right there. And the other one was like, well, but if you're routed this way, then there's these 4 springs on the butterfly valve that like, if we're not including any of those, so we lose that redundancy. And I'm like, redundancy is important in this situation. Redundancy sounds really good. And so they just argue, and one of them finally is just like, fine, whatever, do it your way, and leaves. I'm sitting there, right? This is my job. I hope the person that's right, like won this argument. Because like I'm strapped into this thing tomorrow. Like but that's it. I don't know. By the time I got out of the car, I don't know. I don't know who it was. I couldn't see anyone. I just heard this happening, you know, and I don't know how to. So I had to go on, do other things. We did media things, blah blah blah. The next day is Friday, first practice session. You know, usual deal. We met with the engineers in the morning. We laid out like a run plan for the day. My co-driver was going to start because he was the one that did that shakedown in Atlanta and at least has some idea what the car is supposed to like, feel like, and stuff. So he starts out, and basically, like, everything is going to plan. Like, I'm listening on the headset, like, he's going out, we're making changes to the car, trying to make it better, blah, blah, blah. And then halfway through the session, it's my turn to hop in. This is all the plan. And same thing, like, I go out, I come back in, I report to the engineers what I think we need to do to make changes to the car, to make it better, blah, blah, blah. This is the job. And at one point, I'm going around, I'm headed towards turn 6 at the track in Sonoma. These tracks are all like, they are uphill, downhill, left, right. This is not like a NASCAR, you know, circle track. These are real tracks, and they're complicated. So turn 6 in Sonoma is called the carousel corner because you actually go like up this big hill, like you're looking at blue sky, and then you go over the crest, and then it goes downhill to the left, so you know you're kind of like tracing the arc of like the carousel on the with the horse. But it's big. It's a big. It's like a big freeway on ramp. This corner. So and the elevation's big. From the top down to the bottom, it's almost 100 feet of elevation change, and it's just this, it is like an enormous freeway on ramp. But it's the radius. It's very big, and therefore it's like it's pretty fast. And of course, like. I always want to know, well, how fast, how fast? And as a driver, like, I never knew the miles per hour. Like, I never knew. It's not on the dash. We have other metrics that we're paying attention to that are important. Like, was that a good corner? Is this lap better than the previous lap? Like, you get the info that you need, but speed is not one of them. And in fact, there was one time that I was having this discussion with my engineers on a different year, different car, and we were kind of just. This was not like a serious discussion. He was just asking me about like this gauge in the car and he's like, well, what is it even showing when you're like turning into turn 1 here? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty busy. And the other engineer, the assistant engineer, was like, well, yeah, you're turning into like 165 miles an hour. And I'm like, I seriously was like, dude, don't tell me that. Like, I actually don't. That sounds scary. Like, so that's why, like, as a driver, like, I don't know. I literally don't want to know. But for the context of this story, in this moment, coming towards this carousel corner in Sonoma, you're in 4th gear in this ridiculous Lamborghini, and it's probably like 140, 150 miles an hour. You're going up the hill, and then of course, like, there's this bump, like, right at the crest of the hill, and the car, like, literally, like, jumps over, and you have to wait. You have to wait for the car to go over the crest, like, over the bump, come back down, and settle, and then you can get on the brakes and slow down, for the entry speed for the corner. So you're always really rushed right there. And so this lap, by going full throttle, 4th gear, up the corner, up over the crest, over the bump, wait, get on the brakes, and then it's like, no, yikes, full throttle. Like, my foot is on the brake pedal, but the motor is. And so now there's this 600 horsepower V12, like, propelling me forward. I am now strapped to what is more or less like a wild animal, and Lamborghini's symbol is actually a bull, right? So now I'm like riding this wild bull, and like, this is a problem that needs to be solved, like, really quickly. So I ditched the normal racing line, and I just pointed the car, I just turned the car a little bit so that I could just make a straight line, like, across the track, and I am hard on the brakes. And the brakes are working, and they will continue to work until they overheat and don't. But it's feeling good right now, and if anyone is remaining cool and objective in this story, you might ask, but could you just reach up and switch off the ignition? That is valid, yeah. That's actually a great idea. I didn't do that. So I hadn't had experience with this, and honestly, from like a race driver's, like test pilot point of view, I should have actually been prepared for that. I wasn't. So I am the plan I came up with and the plan I committed to was I will make this straight line, I will be hard on the brakes, I will get the car slowed down as much as I can before I run out of pavement. And so in one of those moments where, you just really like the whole world disappears, just like, this is what matters, and the whole world slows down and all that, I picked this target on the track ahead of me where I'm like, I'm gonna slow it down until there, and then I'm gonna have to release, I gotta release the brakes and see if I can turn the thing. Because the trade-off for the plan that I made of like, bend the wheel, make a straight line and slow down, the trade-off for that is, if it doesn't work, I am now going to go straight into a loose set of tires and a big cement wall. Like straight in. And then I have this enormous V12 behind me that is going to want to come forward. And this is not something you want to do. So I'm like zeroed in on like, I will slow the thing down as much as I can until I get to there. And I got to there and I released the brakes and the thing did start to turn. And then I realized like, okay, actually it's actually no longer full throttle. It has actually backed off a fair bit. So, okay. So now I'm getting a turn. I'm way off in like this dirty part of the racetrack that I would never ever be on, and I tap the gas pedal, the throttle, and I realize like however much I tap it, it stays there, and then it kind of through some vibration somewhere, it kind of slowly comes back, and okay. So now I understand that I actually have control of this thing, and I can get it back to the pit. So I call on the radio. And I'm like, I say, pitting this time, stuck throttle, and I am just so pissed. I'm like, now I'm pissed, because it's like, now that I survived this thing, I'm really, this is this was a problem in like 1955. Like, this problem was sorted out by like 1962. Like, this is not a problem that we should be having. And so, I don't know, I wasn't in the pit box with everyone on the headphones when they heard it, but I know that someone in there it's definitely like, oh shit. And somebody else was like, I knew it, right? So I get the car back, and I'm pretty sure we lost the rest of the session, which is annoying. And I don't know what happened with all the mechanics in the team or whatever. I just, but I do know that many of the mechanics would walk by during the rest of the weekend one-on-one, and they were like, man, thank you for getting that car back here. It's like, I would not, I don't know how you did it. Wouldn't want to stuck throttle in this thing. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I did not want to stuck throttle in this thing either. And I'm not happy with what I had to do. And because also I should say, like, at this point, like, these were the only two cars in the world for Lamborghini. There was not a spare part on this side of the Atlantic. So like, if I had put that thing in the wall, like, we would have been done on like Friday at 1 p.m. Well, we're done. Like, we're Lamborghini's debut and return to sports car racing. It's like, yeah, we're in the fence. So everyone was very appreciative about that, and the other thing they said, the other thing was like, no, we got it. And I'm like, you better have got it. I don't want to do that again. I cannot guarantee the same results. So, but in fact, they did. And Saturday we had practice session was good. Qualifying was fine. The car was slow. It was super heavy, more than anything else, and extremely hot. But then Sunday, I will say, like, through a combination of co-driver and I doing a very good job, and other people making mistakes, we finished second that day, which was actually Lamborghini's highest finishing result in an international sports car event in its history. Like, Lamborghini had never finished a so it was a good dose of keep calm and carry on. Yes, yeah. That horrendous horrendous thing. I lost 9 pounds on the Sunday, the 3-hour race on Sunday. I weighed like 155 pounds at the time. So, I mean, that's like significant. Like the thing was horrendously hot.
There you go, Dave, everybody. All right. This has been a wonderful evening. I want to thank everybody and all the storytellers. You've been such a great audience. Thank you so much. My name is Gary. Please come back next time. August 15th for our next one. Happy Fly Night. Good night, everybody. Let's have all the storytellers come up here for a quick picture before you leave. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you.